And now his birth. When he was born, I'm sure you've heard the story, he went into sajda. And by the way, it wasn't a normal birth, it was a birth free from any pain, any difficulties, even free from an umbilical cord. He was perfumed when he was born. Great awliya ikram came to meet him. Hazrat Maryam was there. May Allah be pleased with her. Hazrat Asiya was there. May Allah be pleased with her. The great women of history came to greet him. And he went into sajda. And what were his words? Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ana Muhammadur Rasulullah. Allah. I testify that there is no God but Allah, and I and Muhammad, the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he said, Ya Rabbi habli, ummati, oh my Lord, guide my ummah, guide my ummah, guide my ummah. He remembers his ummah on the day he was born. He remembers us on the day he was born. And some people object to remembering him on the day he was born. He remembers all of us. Even the Salafis, he's remembering them. Yes. Even those who aren't here, he's remembering them. But we are remembering him because it's our honor, it's our duty, it's our iman. So, his lineage, his parents, his birth. Look how he looks after the ummah. Look how he prays for the ummah. Now, what about those who look after him? You've heard of the Ansar. No one's nodding. Have you heard of the Ansar? A few people are nodding. I'll tell you who the Ansar are, then we can all start nodding. The Ansar are those people from Medina Sharif. When the Prophet emigrated, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he emigrated to the Ansar. And they established the first Islamic state. And he's buried actually in Medina al-Munawwara. What about the history of the Ansar? Why were they so great, these people, to look after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Well, let me take you back many hundreds of years before he was born. Even then people knew him. There was a king called S.A.W. Great king. And he loved education. And he gathered a huge army full of scholars, full of generals, full of philosophers, physicians, the top academics in the world he gathered. Army of many thousands of people. 400 were scholars. And he went around the peninsula. He was from, I believe he was from Yemen. He went around the peninsula showing off his army. Look at my army. Philosophers, generals, physicians, look at these people. And wherever he went, they came out in crowds to admire his army and to discuss with these great intellectuals. And then he went to the Kaaba, Makkah, Makkahul Mukarramah, known then as Makkah. He went there, he said, look at my army. People said, yes, very nice, but look at our Kaaba. Everyone comes to our Kaaba, but you have to go around with your army to show off. Everyone comes here. This made the king a little bit angry. And he then made a comment. He said, my army is so powerful, I'll demolish your Kaaba. I don't understand why so many people want to demolish the Kaaba. Throughout history, they're after the Kaaba. What's the Kaaba done to them? So this is another one, S.A.W. So he says, tomorrow morning, Kaaba will be finished. And the people of Makkah, they always have the same attitude. It's Allah's house, Allah will look after his house. That night, the king became extremely ill. And it's not a weak illness, very serious. Blood started coming out of his nose, out of his ears, out of his mouth. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, he was in pain. So next morning the war was cancelled. cancelled it. He was sick, really sick. And he called all of his great physicians. Remember, he had the top physicians in the world. He called them all one by one. They saw him. And each one said, I don't know what's wrong with you. And he was, there's such great army he had. Now he's absolutely useless. So much for your physicians. One by one they saw him. One by one they said, we don't know what's wrong. And then one of the last ones, one of the old men, he saw him. He said, dear King, Dabba, he said, your illness is not physical. Your illness is not mental. Your illness is spiritual. And the king goes, what do you mean? He said, you have said something, or you have done something that's made Allah angry. And the king was quiet. The king realized exactly what he had said. So he asked this man, tell me, what should I do? He said, make Allah happy. Ask forgiveness from those you have offended, and ask forgiveness from God. Make Allah happy. So the king issued an order. I order that everyone in Makkah receive a gift. And I declare that there is no animosity between me and the Kaaba and the people of Makkah. And the gift he gave, by the way, is not a small gift. Not a cheap thing you can find in the shop, you just give it. Some people are very quiet. Have you done that? Or passing the present you don't like? Oh, I've got this present, I'll just pass it on. Wasn't that? No. We're talking about silk and gold and gems. And he gave each person one of these gifts. And then his illness disappears. And the people around him, his army, his philosophers said, O king, this is a very special place. We have read in the books. Now we are seeing it. It's a very special place. A great man is going to come here. But also we know nearby there's another city. Very special places. We want to go to that city. And the king goes, fine, we'll go to that city. Now the king was a little bit inspired. And the city was city of Yathrib, known now as Madinatul Munawwara, the city of light. So they went to Yathrib. When they got to Yathrib, these scholars, they fell on their knees. They picked up the sand. They rubbed it in their faces. They kissed the ground. They said, O king, this is the place. The great man is going to come here. We've seen the signs. We've read the books. He's coming to this place. We are so grateful to be at this place, to be shown this place, to be present here. And they made a request, please, let us settle here. The king says, what if he doesn't come in your lifetime? They said, then at least we will have the privilege that he will walk over our graves. Those are the words. Even if we don't meet him in our lifetime, he will walk on our graves. That is enough for us. This is many hundreds of years before the Prophet was born, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the king built them all houses, 400 odd houses, top quality. They settled there. And the king wrote a letter to this great man from King Dabba. He said, if I meet you in my lifetime, if I'm alive when you come to this place in my lifetime, he said, call for me. I will come and serve you. I will wash your feet. My whole kingdom is at your disposal. But if I'm not alive when you're here, make dua for me. Remember me in your prayers. So the king wrote this letter. Now, letters that time weren't written on paper. They're written on parchment, on animal skin. So they last a long time. Even now we've got animal skins from